Hello, my name is Jason Levine, Principal Evangelist for Adobe Creative Cloud. And for the next 27 and a half minutes or so, we're going to be talking about ways to help you get to the finish line faster with Premiere Pro. Now, some of these are new things, some of these are just traditional workflows, but really it's just revealing ways that, particularly if you work in broadcast, if you work deploying content to any screen, there are lots of things that you might not be doing in Premiere that really could ultimately make your workflow faster. And the first of those is the fact that Premiere Pro allows you to take that footage, and the second that footage is imported into your project panel, you can begin editing. We have had, for an extremely long period of time, the most robust native file support. And as you can see in this timeline here, we're going to go ahead and start playing this back for you. This contains no less than 10 or 12 different formats playing harmoniously, simultaneously, beautifully in real time. And that's kind of been our mantra actually since about 2010 when we introduced the Mercury playback engine. That you can just shoot and begin editing. It's that simple. And if we take a look here into our footage bin, you'll notice that all of the footage down below is color-coded. We added some new colors, if you recall, probably about 2 IBCs ago. This kind of gives you an idea of these are all the formats that are playing in that timeline. So everything from ABC Longop, got some H.264, some HEVC content, 10-bit UHD, XAVC, Cineform 4.7K, ProRes 47K, DNxHR, all of these can live together. And in the world that we're in, particularly in broadcast, it's not uncommon that you'll have formats coming in from different places, different camera types. This was shot on Panasonic, this was on Sony, this is an iPhone, this is Red. So if you want, you never have to transcode, you never have to convert. You're always working in a 32-bit float container, so you don't have to transcode into a 10-bit format to do 10-bit or 12-bit grading. We're always working that way. But having said that, in the world that we're in, of ever-growing 4K, 6K, 8K frame sizes, I'm someone who edits entirely on his MacBook Pro, so it's not realistic for me to be able to get real-time performance editing 8K on a laptop today, in this very moment. So, of course, I implement transcoding, or more importantly, a proxy workflow. Now, proxy workflows aren't new. People have been doing proxies forever. But we sort of reimagined the proxy workflow to, one, be completely seamless to you, and first and foremost, most importantly, with most other solutions, proxy usually means a one-to-one time loss, right? If you have a 10-minute clip and you gotta make proxies, you gotta render all that stuff out, you're wasting time waiting for the proxies to be generated. We wanted to eliminate that headache. The other headache is reconnecting the proxy media back to the full resolution media. Can be a process. We wanted to eliminate that as well with a single click. So this is what I'm going to show you here today, and I'm actually going to show you the workflow of setting this up, and it's really very simple. And again, there is no time lost to you because through the beauty of Adobe Media Encoder, this all happens in the background. So I'm just going to quickly open Media Encoder for a moment. And then we'll take this from Premiere Pro and I'll show you sort of how to get this all set up. All right, so while that's loading here, let's click over to Premiere. Let's wait to give it a second, okay? And we're gonna go up to the File menu. Now, you would typically start your proxy workflow at the very beginning of your project. When you select New Project, you're presented with 3 tabs that you see here. General, where you can select your GPU render. In this case, I'm using Metal GPU acceleration. Your scratch disks, and your ingest settings, okay? Let's go ahead and select ingest. Now, when you turn ingest on for the project, that is now ready to ingest and do one of these 4 operations, depending upon what you choose, every time you bring footage in. Copy is obvious. Transcode. Now again, in a broadcast environment, you might be in a situation where you've got people shooting on mobile devices, on Arri, on Panasonic, on Sony, and your organization does not want 15 formats playing in a timeline because everyone has different machines, or maybe they just have underpowered machines, or maybe they have machines that just can't handle that sort of thing. It can be a nightmare. So you might want to unify with a mezzanine codec, very commonly used still. So that's what transcode would be for. And then of course you have create proxies and copy and create proxies. So we're going to focus on just creating proxies here. Now, when you choose that, you are presented with a series of presets. Now, these are just sort of suggested presets with some suggested formats that you would typically use for a proxy workflow. First and foremost, ProRes 422 proxy, GoPro Cineform, and H.264. Now, if you wanted to create a proxy with DNxHR or some other format that we have natively supported, you can absolutely do that by adding your own ingest preset. Also, these are just some suggested frame sizes that conform to the most common types, but as we all know, as you get into that between 4 and 8K range, you have variations of where some of these may not fit. So again, you can custom tool those as well. Now, it's also worth mentioning, by the way, because this is one of those things that sometimes gets overlooked. Not only do you have DNxHR, DNxHD supported on both Mac and Windows natively, not through any kind of QuickTime wrapper, but you also now have Apple ProRes import and export on both Mac and Windows. So this was added about a year ago or so. A lot of people still aren't aware of this. You could always bring in ProRes content into Windows in Premiere Pro, but you had really no way to get it out without third-party plugins. Now it's all native. So I'm going to choose this ProRes 422 proxy format, and then of course all you need to do is choose where you want them to go. Now I will typically place them always in the same destination as my project. You can use a preset destination. You can upload these proxies to Creative Cloud. The benefit there is that when you log into any Creative Cloud system, those proxies go along with you. Of course, if you're editing a different project, do I need my folder of proxy folders from the last project? Maybe not. So that's entirely up to you. Or you can choose some additional location to place them. Let's use same as project for now. Get out of here and click OK. All right. Now here's where this gets cool, because as I told you, our transcode workflow, there is no time loss to you because it happens entirely in the background. So I'm going to import 2 pieces of footage here, and we'll see if I can do this fast enough so that I can get the process going to show you how easy it is to switch between and to see how it all works. All right. Now also, pay attention down below to the media encoder icon, because you'll see when I import this stuff, it's going to start transcoding. All right. Let's go ahead and click on import. Okay, so what I want to do is I've got my footage in here. Okay, I'm going to right click here. I'm going to click new sequence from clip. Okay, now that I've done that, it is now playing the native footage. So again, I can just start editing. I can just start playback. But as I can already see down below in Media Encoder, it has already transcoded my media. So wait, I haven't wasted any time. No. How do we know this for certain? How do we know if the proxies are actually attached? Okay, let's go ahead and double click on this. I'm going to go into my metadata field here. Now, of course, you can customize the metadata display that you see on screen. Under the Premiere Pro project metadata, we have a checkbox for proxy status. Click OK on this. It's likely going to be all the way at the end. There it is. And it shows that our proxies are now attached. Now, at present, I'm actually playing the native media. This is the native media that we just brought in. If I want to switch to the proxy media, all I have to do is click this button down here, contained in the program monitor, called Toggle Proxies. Now, you're not going to see this on by default. This is found in the button editor right here. You simply drag it from there into your program or source monitor, and now you have your proxy button. So native media, let's go to proxy media. You may have noticed that it just got a little softer, a little fuzzier. Yes, because we went from 4K down to a 720p. But this is how I work, because I want awesome, real-time, zippity smooth, fast performance. But of course now, as I'm watching this, I'm like, okay, well, I'm ready to grade this footage. I don't want to grade the proxy. Let's go back to the native footage. How do we get back to native? How do we reconnect? Well, there is none of that. There is no time loss to you. You simply uncheck this box. You may have noticed it sharpened up a bit. Now we're working off of native media, right? That's it. It's a single click. Blue means proxy. Gray means native. It's that simple. There's no time loss to you. It transcodes in the background. The media hits the timeline. You continue to work. No time loss. Now, having said that as well, you have additional options. Let's say that you have proxies generated from some other place or at another time. You can attach proxies from another source. Let's say that you have new high-res media that you're working with that you weren't given originally. Maybe you were given 4K versions, but actually everything was shot in 8K. So you make proxies from the 4K, but now you want to take your proxies and reconnect them to 8K media externally. You can still do that too, okay? So we give you some of the more classic workflows for doing that, but if you set it up in Premiere from the beginning, it's a seamless, no time lost process for you. Let's continue on with that theme by talking about the concept of using template projects. Now, once again, I point this out because this isn't reinventing the wheel here. These are pretty simple, obvious things, but these can be true, I hate saying game changer, but it really can change the way you think about producing your content and having consistency of your content and your projects and your files in your broadcast environment, in your post-production environment, wherever it is. So first and foremost, in this template project, one of the things that you'll see is that we have a whole series of folders laid out, right? Everything is beautifully labeled for us. And you can see right up at the top under sequences, we have some blank sequences that contain, in this case, our first one is for main project deliverables, cut at 1080p, 23976 with ProRes render files. Interesting. Okay. This is yet another way, not only having all of this laid out, but using render files, preview files, another way to help you get to the finish line faster. I drop my voice a lot. It's just the way that I speak. Preview files can be accessed, let's go ahead and double click on this, under the Sequence Settings menu. Now what's very important to note about these, and by the way, this particular project is using 422, I would probably choose 422HQ for myself. If you're going to use preview files, when do we use these? Well, okay, you're working your timeline, you're cutting, you start adding color correction, maybe you add some effects, you add some motion effects, and again, you're doing this on lots of clips, so over time, playback starts to slow down. It happens. So you render in the timeline, you render the effects to that clip. You can render them with this chosen video preview format. You have multiple formats you can select here under codec. When you go to render, when you go to export, it uses those preview files, which saves you more time, which ultimately helps you get to the finish line faster. Now, two quick things since we're here. Two checkboxes that you need to be aware of when using these files, because we want to help you get to the finish line faster. We don't want to slow you down. Maximum bit depth and maximum render quality. Now, chances are if you're going out to be broadcast, you don't need a 12-bit or 16-bit, 10-bit, whatever it is, master. You're probably going to 8-bit anyway for your final export. So by leaving this unchecked, you're saving yourself some time. You can check it. It will take a little longer to render those previews. That's fine. That's entirely up to you. Generally, don't see terribly that much of a difference visually. But this one is a little deceptive. Maximum render quality. You will also find this inside of the export dialog, right? We've all seen this before, and you may have been enticed. You may have felt the pull of the Force, Star Wars nerds, to check that box, because who wouldn't want maximum render quality? And also, does that mean that without that checked, we're giving you minimum render quality? Does that make any sense at all? Is anyone here? We are always giving you maximum render quality. What this checkbox specifically means is if you're going to be doing any scaling, if you're going to be going from a 4K timeline but exporting as 1080, you want this checked. If you're going from 8K to 4K to 1080, but you're in an 8K time, you want this checked. If you're going to be scaling up, you want this checked. If you're not scaling anything, don't check this box, okay? And that goes for on export as well, because there is a time hit to you, all right? So just be aware of that. A little tech note, all right? A couple more things in the template project here. Again, we've got everything laid out. We even got some social timelines. So again, repurposing our content. I'm going to show you in a couple moments a feature that we announced this week here at IBC, another thing that will help you finish faster. But it's ultimate for social, because we're going to take that 1080 widescreen project and create an Instagram 4x5 version, or a Facebook 4x5 version, or a TikTok 1080 by 1920 version. All of these settings, all of these configurations are already preset and done inside the template. Nowhere is that more important than in using something like the track mixer, all right? Now, this is something which, if you're not doing in your organization, you're missing out. What this allows you to do, it's not just a matter of naming tracks, and you can see that in each of these templates, everything's done. Dialogue is on 1 and 2, sound effects on 3 through 5, ambience on 6 and 7, music 8, 9, and then we have submixes, dialogue submix, sound effects, ambience, and music. And the benefits there is that then all of your dialogue will filter to a single fader so that you can apply global effects to everything simultaneously, global compression, global equalization, right? You can attenuate all music very easily with a single slider. But more importantly, particularly for broadcast, on the master fader in this template, if you've ever worked with editors who aren't audio people, they may stress about, well, is it too hot? Is it clipping? What's my reference level? Here we are on the EBU. We need to deliver content that measures out with a loudness level of -23 LUFS. How do I know? Here on the master fader in the template, we already have a predetermined hard limiter just to prevent any out-of-band peaks. And then we have our TC Electronic loudness radar meter. So I can set this to the EBU R128 standard. That could have been part of the template as well. And then your editor can keep this going, can keep this monitoring to ensure that they're always within broadcast compliance. Or they are broadcast compliant. However you say that. This is huge. They don't have to think about it. You don't even have to tell them what it means. I mean, this is really nerdy. So the editor's like, well, what are LUFS? Well, it's loudness units relative to full scale. Just make sure it doesn't go beyond -23 LUFS. If it goes to -21, you're fired. No. That means attenuate the overall dialogue, music, maybe the entire project. Just make sure it doesn't exceed -23. Okay? So this is really, really handy. The last thing I'm just going to show you here with regard to template projects is the use of smart search bins, right? So you can create bins inside Premiere that have some smart metadata attached to them so that certain things can be filtered automatically into bins. And one of the workflows that we've done or we've seen or we've encouraged a lot of broadcast organizations to use are smart bins that handle all of the exported sequences. This way, you as the editor know, okay, I already did this one. It gets confusing, right? Especially as we're reversioning and repurposing things. So here we have a smart bin that's called exported sequences. And you can see it must have export in the name. So I'm going to take this main sequence and I'm going to duplicate it. And I'm going to rename it, Jason's edit. And assuming I'm sending this to export, I'm appending export to the name. And I do my export, and I close my project, and I come back. I'm like, okay, what was it that I just worked on? What did I finish? Because I might have 3 timelines that are really the same content, but one of them has the Spanish language soundtrack that I was looking for, or the Dutch version, or the German version, or the Italian, and I didn't label it that way, but I did label it export. Did you notice what happened here? Just by adding that, the smart bin automatically added my exported sequence to the exported sequences bin. So it just makes the organization of all of this content, of all of the sequences media that we're working with, that much faster and that much more efficient, okay? So template projects, this one, by the way, will be available. We're making this available online if you want to check these out. It's something really essential to really speed up that production process. Okay, so let's skip over now to the use of motion graphics templates. Motion graphics templates were introduced a couple of years ago. You can access thousands and thousands of them via Adobe stock. And for those of you unfamiliar, motion graphics templates are essentially, they can be created in Premiere or in After Effects, and they're all of the commonly used motion graphics elements that you'd see on videos, whether it's lower thirds, whether it's graphical transitional elements, moving animated backgrounds, logo bugs, all of those things. Effectively, anything you can create in After Effects can become a motion graphics template. Now let me show you sort of the traditional, and still used today, version sans motion graphics template. So this is just a direct workflow between Premiere and After Effects. Now this would also sort of mean that your editor knows how to use After Effects. So not all people are going to be using this, but this is still used a lot today. And it's been around forever. So here we have a timeline sequence.
Get to the finish line faster.
And spoken by my good friend Maxim, get to the finish line faster. So we have this little animated graphic. Now this is not a render. If you look here, you will see that this is a .aep. So this is a live After Effects project dynamically linked into Premiere Pro. So if they need to make a change to this needs to say get to the finish line easier. Right click, control click, and we're going to choose Edit Original. Now, when you do that, it's going to launch After Effects, and it's then going to open that project, revealing all of the elements that made that up. Okay? So here we are in After Effects, it loads, there it is. Now, if you know how to use After Effects, you will know how to find that text layer. If you don't, though, where's the text layer? For those of you who do know, you're going, oh, well, I wonder if it's in that nested comp. Yes, nerds, correct. But if you don't know, good luck. So then you eventually stumble upon it, and you're like, oh, cool, it must be in here. There it is. Oh, and it's line 3, because we didn't really even label it. Great. So let's go ahead and make that change. Now, the thing with Dynamic Link is this is live. You don't even need to save. So when we click back to Premiere, it changes automatically. The thing is that this gives the editor access to this whole thing. So what if your editor decides, you know, I never really liked the font used in that A in Adobe. Maybe it should be, dare I say Comic Sans, maybe it should be something else. I've never really loved the color scheme of that logo. I've never really liked the position of that whatever it is. You don't really want editors mucking about with that. So this is part of the brilliance, of the beauty, of the magic, of the power of motion graphics templates, which is that the creator of said template can limit what the editor changes, and there's no way they can mess it up. And they never have to leave Premiere Pro. So let's take a look at that. So back in Premiere, nope, that's After Effects. Back in Premiere, here is our Essential Graphics panel, where I have favorited those same After Effects compositions created as motion graphics templates, or as we call them, MOGRTs. Let's use this get to the finish line faster. Drag it right on here. All right, it loads just to show you it's the exact same thing.
Faster.
But if I select this now in Essential Graphics, you can see that they've given us 3 simple editable lines of text. So we can do the same change here, easier. And then we have a color choice, because that's all we're allowed to do. And they say, yep, so Mondays is blue, Tuesdays is different blue, Wednesdays is green. You get the idea, okay? They can't change anything that you don't want them to change. This is look consistency, brand consistency, position consistency, padding consistency. Don't mess with my graphics, yo. Don't do it. Thank you, employee. Now, it gets a little more complex than that. Let's go to one of these lower thirds, right? And I mentioned to you, this can be anything that you can build in After Effects. It can contain Cinema 4D elements. It can even contain third-party plugins. You'd need them on the host system. It can have all of those elements.
Quick.
All right, here's a nice little animated one. Now you can see that the fields are blank right here. Let's go ahead and select it. So once again, I can type in my name. So I'm Jason name, that's perfect. And my title is Pro Skier, all right? And sports icon choices, oh cool, well this is rowing, so you can see that they gave us a little description. We want speed skating number 4. So again, our creator used a little expression in After Effects to flip through these little cycles of animations there. And then once again, we have our color choice. We'll go to color 4, so skiing is green. We're good to go, all right? But what if, we've got the Olympics coming up. International crowds, international people with lots of different spellings to their names from all sorts of various countries. Do you want your editor responsible for misspelling the person who just won said event in the Olympics? You don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that person, right? And if you've got hundreds of names, it's really inefficient to assume someone's going to type those. So, motion graphics templates also support the import of CSV and TSV files. Yes, your motion graphics template creator leveraging an Excel file, effectively, a CSV, that it has already populated name, title, thing that they do, and the color choice can all be set out in a CSV file and automatically implemented into this spreadsheet, into this template, and then they just have a slider to toggle through them very easily. They don't have to spell, they don't have to worry about doing anything incorrectly, it just works. So when we go to edit this template now, you'll see that there's actually a field that says drop spreadsheet here. Down at the bottom of my project panel, whoops, I've got a CSV file called athletes. Let's go ahead and drag this over here, and it opens up this little spreadsheet dialog. All of the names are in there. Okay, looks great. Click OK. Now, by the way, you can override these fields if you so desire, but we're not going to do that. All the color choices, everything's already pre-selected. Click OK. So in this case, we're looking for our skier. You can see we really went all out with the names here. John Fast Runner, Jane Butterfly, she's a swimmer, Matt Crew, David Rees Cycler, that's a good one, Scott Corner, Bob Sharp, world record holder, champion skier. All through a CSV file. What? I don't have to type anything? I don't have to configure anything? No. The cool thing about this too is, by the way, this CSV file is live. So if this exists on a shared storage, shared space, in the case of something like a big sporting event, and they're updating in real time, this will update. No joke. They're in Excel, they're like, oh no, it's not Bob Sharp, it's Bob mildly sharp. You're sitting here in Premiere, that will just suddenly update. So if you don't want that to happen, you can lock those CSV files. But it is in fact live. Pretty freaking awesome, okay? Super cool. All right, my friends, the last thing I'm going to show you really speaks to this concept of not only getting to the finish line faster, but just allowing you to be extremely more efficient and saving you an enormous amount of time when repurposing your content for different size screens, particularly in the social networks. And it's something that we announced days ago called Auto Reframe. Essentially, Auto Reframe allows you to take, in this case, your 16:9 content, and leveraging the power of Adobe Sensei technology, automatically scans, analyzes, and identifies not just faces, but regions of motion and interest. And then it automatically crops, reframes the content to fill that new frame size, that new aspect ratio. You have a couple of options here for motion presets. The most amazing thing about this is that we still give you access to all of the keyframes because, hey, this is a machine learning engine. This is Adobe Sensei. You might have two people on the opposite end of the frame doing stuff, so it might gravitate towards this one. But you want this person over here. You can still make changes to what Sensei suggests after the fact, but literally in moments, in the background, it does all the work for you. Think about how many cuts you have in your average edit. And if you wanted to repurpose that properly for square or for vertical or for 4x5, how long that would take you to do. This does all of it. It does everything for you. You can have multiple versions of these created seamlessly, easily, instantly. This truly, think about it. Think about the time loss in trying to prep edits that do this automatically. I just worked with a YouTuber the other day, 30-second promo for his channel, 200 cuts. It's not that many today. Sounds like a lot. Think about how long that would take manually. This is going to do it for you. The power of Adobe Magic, the power of Adobe Sensei, and the ability to help you get to the finish line faster. My friends, there are so many more things that I can show you, but that is all the time I have. Before I go, I just want you to say, give me a little shout because this one is going live to our friends in the Twitterverse. Let's see you. Say hello. Make some noise as much as you want. That's an amazing amount of noise you're making. Very good. Oh, what an audience. All right, that's enough. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your IBC. We'll see you next time, everybody. Thank you.